So hello and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and the first webinar of your orientation, Countdown to VISTA Service. You are about to embark on a year of AmeriCorps service, and this period before you start service is an opportunity to learn about AmeriCorps service and your benefits, as well as to ensure that this is the right choice for you. My name is Chris Hawks, and I'm joined here by Andy King, and we will be your hosts today from AmeriCorps VISTA. You will also see our AmeriCorps colleagues, Gina Viner, Eric Powell, and Charles Wong in the chat and Q&A, as well as our partners at LSI, Mike Dietz and Jeff Banis, assisting with any technical issues throughout the presentation. And we love seeing your comments in the chat before we begin about what motivated you to apply to your AmeriCorps position, and appreciate your participation and responding to that chat question. We know this is a super exciting time as you're gearing up to start your AmeriCorps year, and I'm very, very happy to be with you today.
And hey everyone, this is Andy King, and I want to add my welcome as well, and thank you for joining VISTA. I'm so happy to meet you today. So I hope this year will be a powerful experience for you, and I look forward to helping you get started. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. We'll start out with some brief introductions and an overview of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Then we'll jump into some of the important details of your orientation, like major tasks to complete when you start service next week. We'll take a close look at some of the benefits that you'll receive, and we'll address your questions on those benefits. And then we'll wrap up today with a quick reminder about some useful resources, and we'll ask for your feedback on our presentation through a quick evaluation survey. So here's an overview of our goals for this session. First, we've asked you to log on today to give us, our AmeriCorps staff here, a chance to connect with you and to help ease you into your service year. We also think this webinar is a great way for you to meet other new AmeriCorps members and to start building connections with your colleagues across the country. We'll also take time today to reinforce some of the important details of your AmeriCorps service. We know there's a lot of information coming at you from our office and possibly from your project site, and so we'll highlight several critical pieces of information. And finally, we want you to leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where to find answers to questions that you may have. With our limited time together, we may not be able to answer all your questions, though we'll work hard to do that using the Q&A as Chris talked about. So Chris, you want to kick us off?
Definitely. Thanks, Andy. It is my pleasure to give you this official welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. You are joining a national service program with a very rich history, and there are roughly 220 AmeriCorps VISTA members beginning service with you this month. And currently, just above 5,000, it's like 5,100 VISTA members are serving in rural and urban areas in all 50 states and in several U.S. territories and tribal nations. In VISTA, or for the acronym Volunteers in Service to America, as VISTA, has been fighting poverty and building communities for more than 50 years. Our strength comes from the talent, the motivation, and energy of our members like you. So let me give you a big thank you for stepping up to share your skills and passion to serve our communities. It really and truly is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Okay, on this slide, in the chat, we ask that you please take a moment to type in your answer to this question. So in what city or town will you serve? We have a lot of folks on the webinar today, so I know the chat is going to be moving quickly. And just a reminder, try to toggle it so that you're sending your response to all panelists and attendees or to everyone. That way everyone can see where everyone else is serving. You might catch someone who's serving in your town or city, or from your hometown, somewhere you used to live. I always try to look out for Raleigh, my home city. Haven't seen it yet, but it could have popped up. As you see, it's going very fast.
Yeah, I always learn the names of new places by watching the chat here and realize there's so much more of America I have yet to see.
Yes, yes. I can't wait to get back to traveling. Oh, well, thank you. Oh, from the triangle. Love it, Leah. So thank you for those responses, and definitely keep them coming. We know certainly based on your AmeriCorps applications and service placements that we have members starting out this month and in many different communities and in many different types of AmeriCorps VISTA projects. So on this next slide, we'll actually kind of transition, but it's a good transition where we want to get a sense of how many folks will relocate to serve. So here you'll see a poll open up, and just indicate yes or no. This is going to be a really quick poll just to see if you're relocating to this new location that you just entered in the chat, or if it's your hometown, it's or the community that you're currently living in. So we'll just give it a few seconds. It'll be quick. Looks like many have already responded. If for whatever reason the poll does not show up for you, you can enter a yes or no in the chat as well as to whether you're relocating or not. Okay, looks like most have responded. So final countdown, we will end the polling, and wow, it's pretty even. 48% yes, 52 no. That's great to see. People moving around, and I love it. That percentage is a little bit higher than the national average for Vistas. Typically, it's about 1/3, so like 33 and 66%, 33% relocating. So interesting. But thank you for participating here, and for everyone relocating. We're definitely sending you very good vibes, good wishes for a safe and easy move. So you will be joining thousands of AmeriCorps VISTA colleagues around the country to fight poverty. The VISTA program mission is to strengthen organizations that fight poverty. And we do that by deploying members to serve in local community agencies. The role of the AmeriCorps VISTA member is to support the organization's mission by providing solutions that enhance efficiency and build capacity by raising money, developing systems, recruiting volunteers, and really creating that lasting change. So by serving at a sponsoring organization, you, the VISTA, are essential to VISTA's mission of strengthening communities. And speaking of your organization, we have another quick chat question. So what is your project supervisor's name? Ask that you enter that in the chat. Again, this will be quick. Could be first and last name, just first, just last. If you're unsure of the spelling, that's okay. Just curious and want to see the responses and see a bunch coming in, the chat moving fast. Thank you all for your participation here. See several names coming up. And yeah, again, we'll keep this quick. A couple question marks is all there. That's okay. So thank you, and thanks for sharing. We appreciate this. And we did see, as mentioned, a few comments or like kind of a question mark after the name and unsure. Saw once or twice, not a lot. It seemed like a lot of you knew your supervisor, so that's good. But if you don't, that's okay as well. That's perfectly okay. Now, typically your supervisor is going to be the person you interviewed with for the AmeriCorps position, or the point of contact that you have at the organization. Maybe you've been speaking with on the phone or by email. And at this stage, there may still be some information to gather, including details about your site and supervisor. And we hope to provide some guidance there on this webinar for those who may need it. On this slide, here is an image that shows the AmeriCorps VISTA program structure with key partners that make your service possible. You can see there are several layers that help support VISTA projects and VISTA members like you. And first is AmeriCorps headquarters located in Washington, D.C. AmeriCorps also has regional offices across the country. And in those offices, AmeriCorps staff review and approve proposals for new VISTA projects and approve the placement of members into those projects. The regional office is a great resource for VISTA members who maybe have concerns about their assignment that maybe their supervisor cannot resolve. Or it's a great resource, for mentioning the previous slide where there were a couple who weren't sure who their supervisor is. Your regional office is going to be a great contact to find out who that is. And there's an easy way to reach out to them. So you can reach your regional office by using the state abbreviation at cns.gov. So an example here, if you're serving in Texas, then you're going to want, and you need to reach out to your regional office. It's just tx at cns.gov, that state abbreviation. For North Carolina, it would be NC, November Charlie, at cns.gov. Just to reach out if you have any questions, they're there to help you, both now pre-service and throughout your year of service. And in the image, you can also see the sponsoring organization is listed along with your supervisor. Your sponsor and supervisor will be your day-to-day support and provide all the details on your project work. At our AmeriCorps headquarters, you will be supported by the VISTA Training Unit and the VISTA Member Support Unit, or VMSU, among other departments. The VMSU specifically is a mighty team and a super helpful resource for questions regarding your benefits. And to make sense of these organizations, we have a handy AmeriCorps VISTA Resources and Contacts document. That document can be found on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. You can also find it at the link you see in the chat right now that Mike just shared. And it was also one of the documents sent this morning in the email. It's a really great document to know who to contact in certain situations, and it's handy to have on hand. Handy to have on hand? I don't know if that works. It's good to have on hand, again, both now, pre-service, and throughout your year of service if you have questions. And for your AmeriCorps VISTA service, you are making a 1-year or 365-day full-time commitment to strengthen and support your community. You will strengthen, expand, and increase the reach of anti-poverty organizations and programs. You will work on projects with staff and volunteers to build capacity in your project and in your community. And central to your VISTA service is an important document called your VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD. Seeing a commonality here with all the acronyms. VAD, we'll call it your VAD, your VISTA Assignment Description. Now your VAD provides the overarching goals of your project. It explains the objectives that you're working towards during your service year, and it lays out the specific activities that you will complete to accomplish the objectives. And all AmeriCorps VISTA members have a VAD, have that VISTA assignment description. You can find yours in the My AmeriCorps portal at my.americorps.gov. It should be on your member homepage right towards the bottom. And it is important to know that your VAD was likely written before you were recruited or selected for your project. So some updates may be in order before you dive into your service, and that's okay. That's one thing we recommend checking in with your supervisor next week, your first week of service, to talk about whether any changes would be useful for your VAD. And when we meet again on next Monday's webinar, we'll go into a bit more detail about capacity building and the unique nature of your VISTA service. So we ask that you please have your VAD on hand by your first day of service.
All right, so now let's move to the next item on our agenda and talk about the phases of your orientation to the AmeriCorps VISTA program. So this webinar is just one part of a multifaceted orientation that all new AmeriCorps VISTA members will complete. On the far right side of the screen, you can see the phases of your orientation. On the far left are the phases And then to the right of it are some of the major tasks that relate to each of those phases. This structure is also reflected in the VISTA member orientation checklist that you got in the email that Chris had just sent you. You can also find a link to the checklist in the chat right now. Thank you, Mike. And although you may start off by teleserving, your supervisor will be providing you with, in some fashion, what we call on-site orientation and training to guide you as you start your year of service. So I encourage you to print or save the checklist and keep it close at hand. You can use it as a record of your progress through each phase of your orientation, and as you complete important tasks this week and beyond, you can check them off. So the phases of your orientation include pre-service, which is where we are now, your first day of service, and then in-service. So it's good to know that orientation to your AmeriCorps service is an ongoing process, and it is going to involve a number of people. We know your position will be a complex one, and it takes a bit of time and effort to get you started strong. So let's talk through some of the important elements of these first two phases of your orientation. As part of this VISTA member orientation, you are required to complete several courses and tutorials online. These online courses are located on the Starting VISTA service page at vistacampus.gov, and they must be completed before you start next Monday. Please note that the Terms and Conditions course is linked to your account in My AmeriCorps, so you can certify your acceptance there. You have to accept the Terms and Conditions of Service in order to start as an AmeriCorps member. Now, we know there's a lot to do before Monday, and again, we recommend using our VISTA member orientation checklist to keep track of your progress on this coursework and the forms that are required. So in addition to the coursework, as I just mentioned, there are several onboarding forms that you need to complete. These include a direct deposit form so we can pay you your living allowance. There's a federal tax withholding form, also known as a W-4, what we call unpaid compensation information, and then an end of service benefit selection. All of these forms are located in My AmeriCorps, that's my.americorps.gov. And if you haven't completed these already, please plan to do that right away. We need these forms so that we can officially enroll you in the AmeriCorps program and process your living allowance and your other benefits. And there are a number of benefits available to you as an AmeriCorps member. And if you haven't already, please look at the information that's available on benefits that's there on the VISTA campus. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk through a few of the benefits and we'll highlight some details. And one really big to-do item on your orientation checklist is that you will be required to undergo a background investigation before you start service. And that includes securely submitting some information online so that we can complete a background check. And this is done at no cost to you. So most of you would have already received an email from this site. Is called Checker. The email address there, support@checker.com. And that email has instructions on how you can securely submit the required information for us to do that background check. Once you get the email, you have to go online and complete the information within 7 days. Otherwise, the link will expire. If you didn't get that email, you might want to check in your spam folder. Also, we ask that you make sure that your email address that's listed in your account in My AmeriCorps is current. Like I said, you're required to submit that information within 7 calendar days of getting the email. Failure to complete the background check requirements on time could result in a delay of you starting as an AmeriCorps member, and we really don't want that to happen. So we have a team of folks to support you in this process. If you have any questions, you can email them at vistafingerprint@cns.gov. This email address is also listed on that resources and contacts document that Chris mentioned. So just a little bit more about the criminal history process. So this next part in the process is, after we get the results from the background check, we compare that background check results to what you disclosed in your AmeriCorps application. For some of you, that might have been a while, so you might recall that when you applied, you were asked if you'd ever been convicted of a crime. And we know it's possible that, when you were filling that out, you didn't disclose everything, for any number of reasons. But we want you to know that if you failed to disclose a conviction in your AmeriCorps application, you've got to fix it, and now's the time that you can do that. So in order to remedy that situation, there is a form, a pretty simple form called a member disclosure form that you will fill out. And you can reach out to our colleagues at the VISTA Fingerprint at cns.gov and ask them to send you a member disclosure form so that you can complete it. So when your background check comes back, we'll compare the results to what's in your AmeriCorps application, and if you have a disclosure form, to what's on there. And if everything aligns, then you won't hear anything more from us. But if we find that there is a conviction on your record that you have not disclosed, then we're going to have some follow-up with you, and we might need to involve your supervisor as well so that we can get more details. Depending on the specific conviction, it's possible that it could have an impact on your ability to serve. In most cases, that's not the case, and we really don't want that to happen. So we do ask that you be forthright and upfront in filling out the criminal history questionnaire so that we can work with you to fully assess the situation.
Okay, next up, let's talk about getting ready for your first day of service. So you will be serving in a professional work environment, and you'll certainly want to set yourself up for success. If you'll be serving on site, you'll want to confirm details like the address where you need to report, maybe the time you should arrive on your first day, the dress code of the organization, the parking situation if you happen to be driving, or maybe other special considerations like the average commute time, if you should bring anything with you like paperwork or identification or something like that. On the other hand, if you have been approved to teleserve until it is safe for you to serve on site, you also want to confirm a few details like the start time for Monday and a schedule for your remote orientation and training. And if you haven't done so already, you also want to make sure your workstation is set up prior to Monday morning. If you will be teleserving at any point, whether every day or only on certain days, please be sure to complete the teleservice agreement form, which needs to be signed by you and your supervisor. Electronic signatures are fine, e-signatures are fine for the form. And you can find that form on the VISTA campus. It's also located in the helpful links handout that was emailed this morning. There's a link straight to the teleservice form. And a link in the chat as well. Mike just shared that link in case that helps as well. You can check out the form. If you are unable to begin your service on Monday, please make sure you contact your supervisor or regional office immediately and let us know by responding to any of the emails you receive from myself, Chris Hawks. So yeah, everyone should be starting on Monday on April 12th. So if for any reason you were told something different, and that's perfectly fine, it happens, but we just need to stay in communication because we'll need to adjust some things and reach out and get some more details. So just let us know, keep in communication. And whatever your situation, please, again, just don't be afraid to ask questions, whether it's to your supervisor, to your regional office, or to myself, or the VMSU for benefits-related questions. We're here to help with your onboarding process. And as just mentioned, yeah, your first day of service is Monday, April 12th. And that day will likely begin your orientation to your project site and your specific duties. So your supervisor may have prepared a formal agenda for you and scheduled meetings or other activities. So day one activities and schedules can vary from project to project. So that's one thing we recommend to please check in with your supervisor about what to expect and what materials you may need on your first day. And along with starting your on-site orientation on Monday, AmeriCorps headquarters will also present your second orientation webinar called Launching Your VISTA Service. So we'll be back online with you for the launching webinar at the same time as this webinar from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, exact same time. And as with this webinar, you will receive an email with participation details. We'll email a reminder with the handouts for that webinar the day of. And also on next week's webinar, we'll go a little deeper into the AmeriCorps VISTA program, your VAD or VISTA assignment description, and member resources. And we'll also have time again for Q&A, for question and answer, to make sure you are in great shape for your first week of service. And also on Monday's webinar, we will administer the oath of service. So that'll be great. It's always a good time. Can get emotional and get to officially swear you into VISTA service. It's great. So we'll see you online at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
All right. So next, we're going to take a closer look at a critical piece of the AmeriCorps VISTA program, and that is the terms and conditions of your service. So as you probably know, there is a required course on the VISTA campus that covers the rules and participation in the AmeriCorps VISTA program, what is allowable while you're serving as a member and what's not. Since AmeriCorps VISTA members are bound by a variety of laws, regulations, and other rules, we want to make sure you understand them from the beginning so you can feel comfortable in your role. If you've already completed the Terms and Conditions tutorial, then this next activity will be an easy review for you. And if you haven't yet completed the course, this will help underscore the importance of it. So here's what we'll do. We'll present several scenarios and ask you to indicate yes or no in the chat. You can type the letter Y or N for each scenario. And here is the first one. I can voice my political opinions using social media where my profile identifies me as an AmeriCorps member. So per the terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this as an AmeriCorps member? Yes or no in the chat, and it's moving by very quickly. So, and it looks like there's a real mix. It's hard to tell. I can't really get a actual percentage, but I don't know. I can't really draw any conclusion there. It seems like maybe it's an even split or somewhere right in the middle. All right, looks like most of you have responded by now, so thanks for your thought. Let's take a look at the answer. So the answer per the terms and conditions is yes. Yes, you can have AmeriCorps listed on your personal social media profile, and you can voice your own personal political opinion as part of your online life. The thing you cannot do is represent yourself as a spokesperson for AmeriCorps or the VISTA program or your sponsoring organization. Additionally, you can voice political opinions on your own time, but not while you're serving at your site or, excuse me, while you're teleserving, and you cannot do it using any of the equipment at your site, including their Wi-Fi network or your office computer. Also, you should not put the AmeriCorps logo as your profile picture, because when voicing political or other sensitive opinions on social media, that our logo will appear next to it, and it makes it look like it's coming from us when it's actually coming from you. So when in doubt, keep your AmeriCorps service and your political activity completely separate.
Okay, here is the next scenario. I can demonstrate in a political rally. So again, as Andy mentioned, per the AmeriCorps VISTA terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this? Just a yes or no, Y or N in the chat. And we see the answers coming in. Thank you in advance for these responses. Love it, love it. And it seems like less of a mix this time. See a large percentage of Ys and yes. Some yeses with some caveats, a yes but, a yes just not in this situation. Okay, love it, I love it. Give it another couple seconds, but it looks like most have responded. So I'm going slow as we bring up the answer, and it is yes. So vast majority got that correct. Great job. So yes, you can demonstrate in a political rally on your own time, as long as you are not identified as an AmeriCorps member or perceived to be an AmeriCorps member. Now that latter part, the perceived to be an AmeriCorps member, is an important consideration, since some of you might be serving in a small town or a local area where you're not necessarily wearing your AmeriCorps gear, but people may happen to know that you are an AmeriCorps member. So again, as Andy mentioned, if you have any doubts, or if there's a situation like that where you're unsure about a specific activity, it's best to avoid it initially and consult with your supervisor or AmeriCorps regional office for clarification.
All right, so next up, what do you think about this one? I can ask people to donate money to a partisan political candidate as long as it's on my own time and I'm not identified as an AmeriCorps member. Per the terms and conditions, is this allowed? And again, looks like there's a bit of a mix, some yeses, some nos. Wow, interesting. So, and then, someone's just honestly saying, I don't know. It's okay, to be unsure and just to say that and get the information then that you need. So looks like the answers are slowing down. So let's go ahead and reveal the answer. And the answer to this one is no. This is a really important one to be aware of. No, you cannot raise money on behalf of a partisan political candidate, and you're not allowed to do it at any time during your AmeriCorps year. Doesn't matter if it's off duty or if you're at home or you're not identified as an AmeriCorps member. There's a federal law called the Hatch Act, and it prohibits all fundraising for partisan political candidates. It applies to AmeriCorps VISTA members. It applies to federal employees, and it's the law. There's no way around it. Now, that said, that's about partisan political candidates. You can, however, raise money in support of an issue or a cause, but again, you have to do it on your own time and while you're not identified as an AmeriCorps member.
Okay, here's our last scenario. I can have outside employment and or earn additional income while serving as an AmeriCorps member. So again, per the terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this? Yes or no in the chat. So a yes with approval, a yes but, a whole lot of yeses, some with caveats, with permission, if approved. I love it. I like the responses. Don't think I've seen a no here. Kind of waiting. Sometimes even on accident, there's a no. But love the responses. Keep them coming in. And get a little drum roll going, and the answer is yes, you did great. That is typically most get that one correct. You may have outside part-time employment while serving in AmeriCorps, but we bring up this question specifically because there are a few key rules to keep in mind, and we want to make sure you're aware. So first off, outside employment must not conflict with your project service or service hours, nor can it conflict with any applicable law or AmeriCorps VISTA program requirements or policies. Under no circumstances may an AmeriCorps VISTA member be an employee of or contractor for the sponsor or project to which they are assigned to serve. So you can't gain part-time employment with the same project that you're serving at. Your supervisor must approve and agree that the outside work will not interfere with the AmeriCorps project. If the work does interfere, the member may be asked to either end employment or to end AmeriCorps service. So this is similar to what many of you mentioned in the chat. Yes, with approval. You have to get approval. Also, only part-time outside employment is allowed while serving as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. And you have to request and receive, as we mentioned, approval for outside employment from your project supervisor. And to do so, there's the outside employment request form, which can be found on the VISTA campus. You can find more information regarding the outside employment policy. There's FAQs. There's a link, as you see at the bottom of this slide. This is also linked in the helpful links handout that was emailed this morning to give you a direct link to that form. And I know it's another form and you have a lot of forms to fill out, a lot of emails, but it's a simple form. It's a one-pager. It's not much, just kind of to fill out the information on the page, electronically sign, and send it to your supervisor for approval. Great. Well, thank you for participating in the chat. Great answers and going through those scenarios. And while the terms and conditions of your AmeriCorps service contain many rules, we know that these 4 issues in particular tend to raise a lot of questions for new members. And again, we want you to feel comfortable getting started as an AmeriCorps member. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your project supervisor or AmeriCorps regional office if you need more clarification on anything, or if you have more questions about these activities or something similar. And again, just a reminder, you'll need to complete the full terms and conditions course if you haven't already, and indicate you've completed it in your My AmeriCorps account.
All right, well, we're making our way through the agenda, and now it's time to take a closer look at some of the benefits that you'll receive as an AmeriCorps member. We won't have time to go through all of it, so we just want to draw your attention to a few key items because they're time sensitive. You'll be able to find a lot more detail about all of the member benefits on the VISTA campus. So if you've been there, you might recognize this page. This is the one that has the overview of all the VISTA member benefits. Some of them, such as a living allowance, are available to all AmeriCorps VISTA members, and some other benefits may only apply to some, like child care assistance. So we ask that you review all of this information carefully. It's the only way that you're going to know what is available to you. But right now we'll walk through just some of them that seem to generate the most questions from members. So first we'll talk about your living allowance. Of course, that's the pay that you'll receive for your service. From the benefits page on the campus, you can find really a good amount of information on the living allowance benefit. And you'll see that at the bottom of the page are additional links under the heading of resources. And on the living allowance page, it includes tips for how to make the most of the living allowance. You'll find the living allowance calendar, as well as a link to all the living allowance rates if you want to find out how much VISTAs make in the county where you're going to be serving. The rates do vary across the country, so as I said, you can use that list to find out the rate for your area. Some of these links are also included in the helpful links handout for the session. So we have a quick question for you here. Does anyone know when you'll be getting your first living allowance payment? If you know, just type your answer in the chat. Wow. Talia wrote in immediately. A few different things. A lot of you wondering. A lot of you are not sure. All right. Well, a couple of you, several of you now have gotten it right. And the answer is April 30th, 2021. So that is the date of your first living allowance payment. It's a Friday. Most VISTA members are paid directly by us here at AmeriCorps every 2 weeks on Fridays. However, some members are paid out by the sponsoring organization where they're serving, and their organizational calendar might be slightly different. So your supervisor can tell you if you'll be paid by them, and if so, then your supervisor can share their pay schedule. A good thing to know is that federal income tax will be withheld from your living allowance payment, but state taxes will not. So it's going to be your responsibility to figure out your own level of responsibility, if you have any, for state taxes. You can check the state income tax website to get more details. If you are paid by us at AmeriCorps headquarters, you will be able to access your living allowance statement in your account at my.americorps.gov. But if you're paid directly by your sponsor, then you'll receive pay statements from them. And just a word about direct deposit, so that we can make sure that you get your living allowance and you get it on time. It's really essential that you complete the direct deposit information correctly. So as you might know, if either the routing number or the account number that you enter into your account, if either one of those is incorrect, then you're not going to get paid on time. And a good thing to know is that you'll have to wait at least 2 more weeks until the next pay period to get paid, because payroll runs just once every 2 weeks. So how can you make sure you have the right routing number and account number? Well, if you have a paper check, some people still have those, you can find the routing number and the account number at the bottom, and you can see them there on the screen. But you may also want to just call your bank to make sure you have the correct information. Again, we ask you to double check that the numbers are right in your account. You're the only one who can ensure that it's correct, and we really do want you to get paid on time.
And after successfully completing your AmeriCorps service, you are eligible for one of 2 benefits, either the Education Award or the cash stipend. So for the Education Award, that can be used to pay any qualified federal student loans or to pay for education at any Title IV institution, which is an institution that accepts federal funds. You have 7 years to use the award, and you don't have to use it all at one time. That's a common question, so you can kind of break it up into future payments if you'd like. You cannot, however, transfer it to anyone else. It's only for you, the VISTA. And then the cash stipend is paid out by direct deposit at the very end of your year of service. And the most important detail to know is that if you are unsure of which benefit to choose, you're kind of on the fence, I suggest that you select the Education Award, because then you would have up until the end of your 10th month of service to switch to the cash stipend. Once you start service, you are not able to switch from the cash stipend to the Education Award. So it only goes one way. So when you choose the cash stipend, it is a final decision. But if you select the Education Award, you have a little flexibility up until your 10th month of service to make that change. So we did want to highlight that aspect here in case you're on the fence. And of course, more specific details regarding Education Award eligibility, institutions that may match the Education Award, and plenty of other information to know can be found on vistacampus.gov as well as on AmeriCorps.gov. And if you have student loans now, there are ways you can postpone repayment of federally backed student loans during your year of service. If you choose the Education Award, you can request forbearance for your federally backed student loans, which forbearance means you do not make monthly loan payments during your year of service. And you can ask the National Service Trust to pay the accrued interest on your federal loan after you complete your year. Just be aware that the interest payment at that point would be considered taxable income. And federal loan forbearance is not guaranteed. It's something that you must initiate the process by submitting a loan forbearance request in your My AmeriCorps account. You can't do that yet. You will be able to do this approximately 1 week after you start service, so roughly 2 weeks from today maybe. You'll be able to go into your My AmeriCorps account and you'll see a My Education Award link on the left-hand side of your member homepage. And if you select the end of service cash stipend, or if you have private student loans, you may request loan deferment. And what that means is you can apply directly with your lender, giving the reason of economic hardship. You may be able to have your accrued interest paid by the Federal Department of Education if you have federally subsidized loans that are deferred. And you may be able to have a portion of your Perkins loans forgiven. Loan deferment as well is not guaranteed and may not be offered by all lenders, and you should check with your lender for specifics. And neither of these will happen automatically. You'll need to request them through the appropriate process, either in the My AmeriCorps portal or with the bank that holds your loan. And for more details on everything we just covered, you can go to the Education Award tutorial on the AmeriCorps website, which is at AmeriCorps.gov. I won't read out that whole link. You can see it on the slide, but I promise we have that link in the helpful links document that was sent earlier. And just for a quick recap and reminder on the forbearance process, because it's a pretty common question that comes up on the process. So after you have officially started service, about a week after you start, you can go to your My AmeriCorps account to submit your loan forbearance request with AmeriCorps. And just a reminder again that it is your responsibility to submit the forbearance request and check on its status. And then at the end of your year, it is also your responsibility to go into My AmeriCorps and submit any Education Award payment requests, as well as interest accrual payment requests from the National Service Trust.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit and look at your healthcare benefits. So the AmeriCorps VISTA program offers two different health benefit options. One is for members who already have health coverage, like private insurance or Medicaid, and the other is for members who don't have health coverage. So if you have health insurance or other coverage, you're eligible to enroll in what we call the AmeriCorps VISTA Healthcare Allowance. This allowance provides reimbursement up to $8,550 for qualifying out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. So you can use that allowance towards what are known as out-of-pocket expenses, and those are things like a copayment for an office visit or for some service you receive, or prescriptions, to actually purchase medications and medical supplies, and the money that you get reimbursed for those out-of-pocket can count towards meeting your annual deductible. So the allowance will not reimburse you for the cost of actually buying the insurance or paying the monthly premiums. The other option is if you do not have any health coverage now, then you're eligible to enroll in the AmeriCorps VISTA Health Benefit Plan. So this is a safety net plan that covers your basic healthcare needs. And it covers a lot of basic services, and it has very low co-pays. But there are some limitations on the plan. And the most important one is that it does not cover pre-existing conditions. There's no deductible for the health benefit plan, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to enroll. Both of these options include limited dental and vision benefits, and they also include a telehealth service for phone and video healthcare with board-certified and licensed doctors. Both benefit options are free, so nothing comes out of your living allowance payment no matter which option you choose. And both of these are available to cover only you, the AmeriCorps member, not dependents or anyone else. Now, to receive one of these benefits, you must enroll. There's no automatic enrollment. In about 2 weeks, you will get an email from a company called IMG, or the International Medical Group, and they are the ones who administer these benefits for us. The email they'll send you has instructions on how you can enroll. And given the current situation and concerns around testing for COVID-19, the best information, or rather the best source of information, is the Centers for Disease Control. We ask that you please follow their guidelines on who should be tested and what measures to take for testing. And if testing for COVID-19 is recommended, testing is covered under both of our plans. And if an AmeriCorps member is diagnosed with COVID-19, both of our health benefit options will cover medically necessary care in accordance with the plan. VISTAs who want to seek coverage through the health insurance marketplace, that's the public open marketplace, are able to take advantage of what's called a special enrollment period. So this is a period of 60 days from your start date, the day you start service with AmeriCorps, as well as 60 days from your last day of service. And the special enrollment period allows you to sign up for health insurance through the health insurance marketplace, even though it's not open enrollment period. So you can go to healthcare.gov, and you see the link is at the bottom of the screen. You can go there to shop for plans and see, what the cost would be, what subsidies you qualify for. But to enroll during the special enrollment period, you need to actually call their toll-free number. You can get that on their website. So next, let's talk about public assistance benefits and how they might be impacted by your AmeriCorps VISTA service. If you are already receiving public assistance, such as TANF or LIHEAP, then your VISTA living allowance or any other payments that you receive from AmeriCorps should not affect the level of assistance that you receive. Likewise, in applying for new public assistance benefits, your living allowance should not be factored in when determining the level of benefits that you get. The one exception to this provision is a program called SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. So if you enroll in SNAP now or at any time during your year of service, your living allowance and other AmeriCorps payments will be counted as income in calculating your eligibility and your benefit level. But if you are already receiving SNAP before enrolling in AmeriCorps, then your benefit is going to stay unchanged. Public benefits are managed by state and local entities. AmeriCorps is not involved in how they're administered, so you'll want to speak with a caseworker to get specific advice in these areas. And depending on your location, it's possible that some of these offices have become extremely busy and overwhelmed. So if you need advice, it may take a while to get the state or local office to respond. So in about 2 weeks, you'll be able to access, view, and print what we call your service letters from your homepage in My AmeriCorps. When applying for public assistance, you'll be able to print a letter citing the authority for what's called income disregard from your account. And that tells those agencies that your living allowance income gets disregarded.
And as an AmeriCorps member in the VISTA program, you have certain leave benefits available during your year of service. So you have 10 days of personal leave and 10 days of sick leave available to you. But we recommend making sure to read the VISTA member handbook regarding the time periods you're permitted to use your leave. And additionally, you will be able to observe the national holidays that are recognized by your service site. So for an example, if your site observes Labor Day as a day off, then you would also have that day off. However, you do not get excused leave for federal holidays that are not recognized by your site. So an example there, if your site does not give its staff a holiday for Veterans Day, then you are expected to serve on that day as well, along with the rest of the staff. You and your supervisor will monitor your time and attendance and leave requests. So if you have any leave requests, you will send those to your supervisor for approval, and they will track them. That's a pretty common question that pops up regarding time and attendance and leave requests. Those are all managed by your supervisor. It's not something that you wouldn't enter it in your My AmeriCorps account, a request there. And there are other benefits available to AmeriCorps VISTA members. And as we previously mentioned, some benefits may not apply to you, and these could include benefits such as relocation and childcare. So if you have relocated more than 50 miles from your home of record to your service site, or if you will be relocating within 45 days, you may qualify for a relocation travel allowance and one-time settling in allowance. So we saw from that poll earlier, almost half on this webinar are relocating or already have relocated, one or the other. So if you are eligible for financial travel support, you should have already received communication from the VISTA Member Support Unit from the VMSU, which includes a relocation form for you to complete and return. If you relocated or plan to relocate more than 50 miles to your service site, but you have not received an email confirmation from the VMSU, or if you have any questions about relocation form or relocation in general, you can always reach out to the VMSU. You see the email address here on the screen, vmsu@cns.gov. That's included in the resources and contacts PDF handout. And in addition, AmeriCorps VISTA offers a child care benefit to members who qualify. And to qualify, you must meet specific eligibility requirements, such as household income limits, and you must be the parent legal guardian of a child under 13 who lives with you. And for more information on the child care benefit and to apply, you can visit AmeriCorpsChildCare.com. You see that on the slide. So, taking a breath, I know that was just a lot of information that we covered on the benefits, and a lot coming your way all at once. So, as you know, as an AmeriCorps member, you have access to a lot of benefits during your year, and there's a lot of details and specifics with regards to those. So, we hope that you now have a better idea of at least how to find out more about those benefits. So where you can go to find more information if you really want to dive into the details, and also what action steps are needed to access those benefits. So as you see our agenda here, we're going to take a few minutes to address some of the questions you've submitted in the Q&A. Andy and I are going to pull out the ones that really apply to most everyone, and continue to address your individual and really specific questions in the Q&A until we wrap up the webinar today. So yeah, give us a second or two to look at any questions that may have popped up. And Andy, I don't know if you had already seen one.
Yeah, Chris, there are a couple that I think might be good to cover here. Nikki asked, what does full-time mean? Is it 40 hours or is it something less than that? So can you just cover that real quick?
Yeah, definitely. So generally, most VISTAs work about 36 to 40 hours per week. Should not be over 40 hours for sure. But that's the general time frame for a VISTA member. And the specific hours can vary. I would say most VISTAs serve Monday through Friday in 40 hours or 36 to 40 hours. But it can vary. There are some sites that really need help on a Saturday, so you might have an alternate schedule and have a separate day off during the week. And Andy, I don't know if I miss anything or anything to add there.
Nope, I think that's great. And I saw a couple questions in here about the healthcare allowance. So since I covered that, maybe I'll take that question. So the questions were generally like how does it work? How do I go? Is there a way that I can, get this benefit without having to front the money? So there are actually two ways that the healthcare allowance can work. You can, say go pick up your prescription and you pay the copay, get the receipt. You can submit the receipt later and get reimbursed. The other way, and particularly if you're going for maybe a service that has a higher patient responsibility portion, you will get a card from IMG, and you can treat it like what they call in the insurance and healthcare industry secondary coverage. So you have your primary coverage, right? That's your health insurance. And then you take the IMG card, and when you check in at the clinic or wherever, you say, here's my primary coverage, and then here's my secondary. So that way, what's not covered by your insurance will then be billed to IMG to your healthcare allowance account. They'll process and take care of whatever part they can. And if there's still something that is your responsibility, it shouldn't be, but they would let you know about that. So that's sort of the two ways there. Of course, a lot of details, and you can go to the IMG or IM Global website to get those kind of details.
And I saw a question on sick personal days, and it was Ava was asking if sick personal days are paid time off. Is that correct? So yes, that is correct. Your 10 personal days and 10 days of sick leave are paid time off. Your as Andy mentioned earlier, with the living allowance, where you can check out the living allowance rates by county, there's actually a daily rate, and all VISTAs are paid on a daily basis. This rate, it goes from your first day of service up to your 365th day of service. So your 10 days personal leave and 10 days sick are included in that.
A couple of questions related to teleworking or teleservice. So when we say teleservice, that means working remotely. And a couple of folks were interested in knowing if they've been told that they're going to start out working remotely because of the pandemic, but that later they'll be able to, come and serve on site, and how that's going to impact their relocation. So if you're going to be, if you're planning initially to relocate, but that's maybe put on hold because, you can't serve in person right now, you still will qualify for your relocation assistance, but we're going to pay it closer to when you actually move. So that's why that 45-day thing is we have the VISTA Member Support Unit have a very simple form where you share what your relocation plans are and the timing of that, so that they can then be ready to have your benefits available to administer when it's time for you to relocate.
And not to jump around topic to topic, but I see a quite good question here that comes up often with regards to I currently have health insurance, but at the end of this calendar year, so in like 8 months, I will no longer have health coverage or health insurance. So what to do about the VISTA benefits on healthcare? So great question, and that comes up quite a bit. And you can change from one to the other. So if you in this situation, if you currently have health coverage, you can sign up with IMG for the healthcare allowance to help reimburse with out-of-pocket expenses. And then at the end of the calendar year, if you no longer have health coverage, you would just let IMG, our healthcare administrator, let them know. Just shoot them an email, call them up, either way, and just let them know, hey, I'm switching over. Can I switch to the health benefit plan? And they'll get you switched right over. The only thing I would suggest is trying to let them know about 30 days prior to that occurring. If that's in scenarios where you know beforehand what the date will be when you will no longer have that health coverage, or when the change will be. Obviously not in all scenarios, everyone knows that, but just try to let IMG know with as much heads up as possible.
All right. Well, I know we haven't verbally been able to answer all the questions that have come in. Our team of colleagues busily answering them in the Q&A. So, Chris, what do you think? Is this a good time for us to look ahead at the rest of the session?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I would agree with Andy. Our colleagues will continue to answer those questions there. And if you think of a question after the webinar, we'll have another Q&A next week as well. So you'll be able to ask then.
Great. All right. Well, let's take a look at where we are now. So thank you for time, for sharing your questions here. And let's see, we're now going to move on to look at some resources that we have for you, some reminders for this week, and our webinar wrap-up. So these are the two websites that have figured prominently today and in many emails that you've received from us. So if you haven't already, you may want to bookmark these sites so that you can easily and quickly access them at any time. And just as a reminder, my.americorps.gov, that is My AmeriCorps, and that sometimes you'll hear people call it the portal or My AmeriCorps portal, but this is the website where you applied for your AmeriCorps position. It's where you complete your direct deposit, your other onboarding forms, and it's where you can access your VISTA assignment description. It's also where in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to access your living allowance statements, request some of the benefits that we talked about, like forbearance, print out a service letter, and other things like that. And then the VISTA Campus, located at vistacampus.gov. So this is the learning website, and it's where you complete your onboarding coursework and tutorials. So I invite you to explore the VISTA Campus early and often. It's, I think, an important resource to help you navigate your year of AmeriCorps service and access additional training opportunities. So on the screen is a quick look at the Learning Resources section, just to give you a sense of the breadth of information that's available there. You can also locate and reach out to other AmeriCorps members using the VISTA map, VISTA forums on the campus.
Okay, and we just have a few moments left in our session today, and here's one last reminder about the coursework, the onboarding forms, and criminal history check that are due. If, as Andy mentioned, if you haven't yet received that email on the criminal history check, you should receive it soon. But there's always that contact that we included in the handouts today to email vistafingerprint@cns.gov with any questions on the criminal history check process. And be sure to use that VISTA member orientation checklist to keep track as you work your way through this list. And finally, we'd love your feedback on our presentation. We'd love to know what worked well for you, how can we improve this presentation for future AmeriCorps members, areas to emphasize and whatnot. So please, we just ask that you take a few moments to complete a brief survey. It's really quick, and please know that we do use your input, and we try to use it as quick as possible as we complete preparation for our webinar next week. And thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. There's a link in the chat right now, and it also should automatically appear as you close out of the Zoom session. And with that, I want to revisit our session overview. So today, I hope that we have started to build some new connections and put faces to names, and that we helped clarify some of the complexity of starting your AmeriCorps service. And we certainly know this is a busy time for you, and there's so much information being thrown at you every which way. So I certainly hope today's discussion helped clarify some of the AmeriCorps requirements and also helped you know where to go to find information that if you want to dive more deeper into. So thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar. Again, for those specific questions, we'll spend another couple minutes answering those individual questions in the Q&A. But otherwise, from all of us here at AmeriCorps, thank you for joining the AmeriCorps team. And we look forward to seeing you again next week on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for our second orientation webinar. So have a great rest of your week.